Loneliness sucks. And when you are experiencing those feelings of loneliness, it honestly sometimes feels like you're never going to get out of that, or as if you're never going to stop feeling that. And especially around the holidays, it sometimes feels as if those emotions of loneliness are amplified. So in this video, I want to share tips that will help you reduce and combat those feelings of loneliness and understand that we, the individual, have the strength and the power to implement the baby steps, the small habits, the micro habits, and the small action items that will surely get us out of that loneliness over time. And of course, this video in no way is trying to replace professional help, therapy, other resources that include you talking to a professional. So if you feel like you are at an extreme point of perhaps clinical depression or just a deeper rooted feeling of loneliness and sadness, then I definitely urge you to, of course, seek help through a professional. So the first tip that I want to share with you that is going to help you feel less isolated and less lonely is to reconnect with yourself. So rather than initially starting to seek the answers in others, it's important to have this moment of accepting that we're feeling lonely and try to understand where that feeling is stemming from. Because loneliness doesn't mean that there is no one around you. I'm sure there's been situations in your life where you are surrounded by a lot of people and you still feel alone. So trying to understand why we feel that way on a deeper level is important. And a lot of times what this requires is for us to listen to ourselves, to reconnect with ourselves. So I think a very important step is to tend to ourselves, to care for ourselves, to show that love through various activities that is really going to make us feel seen by ourselves. Let's talk about journaling. I have mentioned journaling in many of my other videos, but I think it's very important to take a moment to have a reflection period with ourselves. So the holidays happen at the end of the year, so this might be a perfect way for us to start the reflection process of the year. Maybe write down things that we would love to stay the same, things that we did very well, our major accomplishments, what led us to those accomplishments, therefore wanting to repeat those things that led us to those accomplishments, and also the things that are negative, the things that didn't work for us that we definitely want to change. So this can look different for different people, but I definitely recommend that you take a couple of moments to have two separate sections and bullet point the positives, bullet point the negatives. You can do simple bullet points or complete sentences. You could do paragraphs. Meet yourself where you're at, but really take a moment to dissect the year, or at least the parts that you would like to, and identify the good and the bad. And if you are watching this video, then chances are you are feeling a little bit off these days. So I would encourage you to focus on the positives. So positive things that happened with your relationships, positive things that happened with your career, with your spirituality, with your financial life, with your hobbies, with your health. Really focus heavily on those positives. And as you're writing the negatives, understand that they have to exist. Negative elements need to be part of our life because we're not perfect. So aside from having a moment of reflection, that will really help you connect with yourself because you will get answers from that. Another thing you can do is start applying small positive habits that are going to make you feel better and connected with yourself. So a good place to start would be with your morning and night routines. So really starting your day off solid and ending it on a good note is going to be a great starting point for you to start tracking specific things that you want to do in the morning and ending with very specific things that are going to make you unwind and plan for the next day. This is a great activity to start implementing those positive habits. I did make a daily routine template that will facilitate this process of setting out a morning and night routine and helping you track the habits for those routines. I will link that template from my shop down below. So the reason we want to focus on positive daily habits is because we want to avoid falling into the negative habits. We want to avoid falling into more isolation, falling into things such as drinking or other habits that are not going to fulfill us or help us on a long term or even in a short term. So we want to not dig that hole deeper. We want to start taking little shovels at filling that hole so that we don't go back into it. So I do want to share this app with you called ClassPass. It may be available depending on your area, but essentially what it is that it allows you to book top rated fitness classes near you. So if you, for example, if you want to try spin or Pilates or hot yoga or boxing or any other category of movement, then you can go ahead and do it through this app. I will include a link down below that will allow you a free trial so that you can go ahead and check it out. I have found that this is a great way for me to get out of my isolation periods because I go ahead and engage in movement and I'm doing it around new people and I'm just doing something that's going to cause me to feel better. So definitely feel free to check that out if this is something that you would like to implement into either your morning routine or your night routine. It will definitely kickstart you into feeling better. Tip number 2 that will help you feel less lonely and isolated, especially during the holiday season, is to find people that you really connect with. So this can consist of old friends or new friends. But the purpose of this is that you allow yourself to genuinely be immersed in conversation with someone that you care about and show interest in, and that they care about what you're saying and show interest in what you're saying, so that simultaneously you're helping that person feel seen and they are doing the same for you. So achieving real connection does involve you being vulnerable, which I know it is a difficult thing to do. It is terrifying because you're putting yourself out there, but that is what's going to help you bridge that disconnection between you and the person, whether it is a family member, a friend that you've known for years, or a person that you just met. So I highly encourage you to reach out to people that are already in your life, to friends that maybe you haven't spoken to in a while, or maybe if you have spoken to them, it hasn't been in a deep, meaningful way. So definitely reach out to the people already around you and enable that connection, enable that genuine conversation that's going to help you and it's going to help them. And meeting new people is so hard, especially someone that enjoys the things that you do, someone that shows interest in what you want to talk about and doesn't only dominate the conversation and talk about things that they want to talk about. But an app that you may want to consider if you want to make new friends that are already interested in the things that you like and the things that you're passionate about is called MEETUP. If you aren't aware of MEETUP, it is an app that allows you to connect with people with various interests for various purposes. It can entail leisure, hobbies, business, and literally there's workshops on there. There are just so many things. So based on my interest, it will go ahead and show me events, either virtual or in real physical life, that you can attend. And this ensures that you are meeting people that are already interested in things that you like because they are searching for the same things. They're going to the events that you show interest in. So this is a great way for you to step outside of your comfort zone and meet new people and welcome new experiences that will really facilitate this connection. Definitely try this out. I think it is something that will really catapult you out of your loneliness, and at the same time it might be a great and fun experience for you to go through. So if you're serious about connecting with people, whether it's old friends, family members, people already in your life, or new people, I really encourage you to make this happen, to mark it on your calendar. So for example, call up a friend, set up that coffee date, put it on your calendar, or go on Meetup and see what events there are and book that event. Or even ClassPass. I mentioned ClassPass earlier. Maybe there's a yoga class that you know it's going to facilitate interaction with others, even if you don't become best friends, but it will enable that human connection. So book that class, put it on a calendar, respect it, show up, and hold yourself accountable. And calendars really help do that, because if it's on your calendar, you're going to assume it's an important event. It's something that you have to tend to. Tip number 3 is to carry out small gestures of kindness. Being kind just makes us feel good. A lot of times we hope that they happen to us, or if they do happen to us, we feel good, and creating that for someone else and for ourselves is so powerful. At the end of the day, you have to remember that we all want to feel seen. We all want to feel listened to. We all want to feel important. important. So I like to remind myself that no one has a perfect life, that at any given moment, other people may be going through similar things as me or worse. And as individuals, we have the power to influence other people. We have the power to make their day worse by being crappy people, by if someone is crappy toward us, returning that. But we also have the power for the other end of the spectrum, which is to make it a good interaction, not returning at least the negativity that someone gives us, or coming from an angle of compassion. So you can be the one that spreads the holiday cheer, as they call it, right? You can be the one that is the positive ray of sunlight that's shining through the darkness, because a lot of times that's how it is. People aren't really interacting with anyone when you go out. People don't really engage in even exchanging a smile. You're just in your own world, right? So being the one that sparks that, create that for others, create that for yourself. Some practical things that you can do to engage in small gestures with strangers or just with others is to exchange a smile. Just smile at someone, even if they don't smile back and you feel dumb, it's fine. Like, just you'll get over it. Just smile at a stranger. Buy a coffee for a colleague or for the person behind you, or handwrite a letter to someone that you love, to a friend, to a family member. Spark a conversation with someone at the stores. For example, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to the bank, if you go pump gas, like wherever it is that you're at, just try to spark that conversation. Ask how their day is going. Compliment someone. That's typically the easiest way to initiate conversation. Like, oh, I really like your shoes. Where did you get them? You know, just really engaging in those small acts of kindness that will make a person's day. I've been complimenting on the simplest things that it makes my whole day. Like, for example, if someone were to compliment me on my turtleneck, I automatically associate that with so many things, like, oh my God, like I look pretty today. Oh wow, like I have a good sense of style, or that's questionable. But anyway, like in that moment, you start associating that compliment with a lot of things about you. At least I do. But anyway, the point is that you want to be the one that creates this opportunity to engage in connection with someone else, because this means that they're experiencing that connection and you're experiencing that connection, and you created that, and that is powerful. I know that small gestures are one of those things that we can always do more of. It could just be your way of being, but if it's not, if this is something that you struggle with, if you get maybe social anxiety or you feel nervous, this can be something that you track. So I have previously made habit trackers, and it allows you to track throughout the month whether you engaged in an activity or not. So if you really are serious about just getting better at engaging in these small acts of kindness, you can make it a habit that you want to be tracking. And even if it seems weird, it's a great way to improve at something. And eventually you won't need to track anything, because that'll just be the person that you are. But initially, this is a great tool to start tracking any habit that you find is hard for you to just do naturally. This will facilitate just holding you accountable and seeing your progression over time. So time for tip number 4. Tip number 4 is another fun one. Tip number 4 is to make your own traditions. Entering adulthood is weird because there comes a time when you realize that you have to create your reality, that you are the one that has to be responsible for making things happen. It's very strange because maybe in the past, people were just taking care of it, right? Like you just knew you were gonna gather for the holidays because your family arranged that, or you just knew that things were going to get cooked during the holidays because your mom or your dad or your uncles and aunts or grandma, grandpa were going to be the ones that were taking care of that. Someone else was hosting, someone else was gathering people, someone else was implementing the traditions. At one point, it's our turn. And for some people, this may come easily. For me, it does not. For some of us, it may be hard to first understand that now it's time for us to do things and to actually carry out those new traditions, or to find value in traditions such that we would want to implement them in our own lives for our own family, or maybe just to keep it going. So I encourage you, as the holidays approach, create your own reality, create your own traditions, or implement the same ones that your family has been implementing. For example, if when you were a child, your family was really big on buying like Christmas gear, Christmas pajamas, Christmas socks, or baking every weekend until Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate came, or whatever tradition it is. I know that different families, different people have different traditions. So maybe just start that up on your own if you're in a space where you're far away from family, or maybe you're just in a situation where you're alone for the holidays. Just really kickstart the holiday cheer in your own life by implementing your own traditions, whether they're old ones or new ones that you want to implement. I went ahead and created a holiday checklist so that you can go ahead and select an item from the list and check it off. I find that this is just a really great way to connect with your inner child, because it kind of pulls you back into that holiday spirit and to do things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't, because you think that adults don't do that anymore. But yes, we should do more things that we did when we were children. And also, I don't know about you, but I love to cross things off. It makes me like competitive with myself, like, oh my God, like the more I can do, the better. And it also, like, just checking off anything makes me feel very satisfied. And it also serves as accountability for me. So maybe you can do this on your own. You can select items that you want to do, or you can do it with a friend, with a spouse, a partner, whomever. It's just a great way to reconnect with the child that we have inside of us that we should never let die. And also it can help us be more involved with the holiday spirit and just feel more cheerful overall. So I will go ahead and link the holiday checklist down below. You can go ahead and download this onto an iPad, or you can go ahead and just print it out. The final tip is to avoid social media, particularly Instagram or TikTok or everything. Just avoid social media. Avoid being on social media platforms that make you feel like your life is boring or like you're not doing enough, because I'm sure this has happened to you. You're perfectly fine. You may not be traveling or doing some crazy spontaneous out of this world thing, but you're content. You're feeling good. You're all right. You're in a good space. And then you open Instagram and someone's traveling somewhere, someone's doing this crazy experience for the holidays, someone's doing something that you perceive as better than what you're doing. That comparison game, it's a trap. And I can tell you, I actually deleted Instagram completely back in February of 2021. So over a year. Deleting my personal Instagram, I cannot stress how much freedom it brought me. I'm not telling you that you should delete your social media apps, but I am telling you or suggesting, encouraging you to limit your usage of social media, especially during the holidays, especially if you are feeling sad, alone, etc. It's not going to make you feel better. And if you can just reduce your usage, great. If you can completely avoid using social media throughout this holiday season, even better. You can even make it like a countdown, right? So for example, I shared earlier that you can track your habits and cross off like, oh, I did it today, and sort of track your progress. Maybe on that habit tracker, you can have avoid social media. And for every day that you avoid social media, you can fill in a bubble so that it kind of becomes this thing that you maybe feel satisfaction off of checking that off, and you can see your progress, right? If you like data, if you like tracking things, then that might be a good option for you. Instead of being on these social media apps, focus on some of the other tips. Reconnect with yourself. Try out an app where you can meet new people. Try baking something new. Try planning your new traditions. Use that time wisely to create the reality that you desire, rather than watching the reality that someone else is perfectly cultivating to portray to you. Those are my 5 tips. Remember that loneliness is inevitable. We're all going to feel it at one point in our life. We have to understand the feelings. We have to sit with our feelings, but not for too long. You have the ability to bring yourself out of that negative state of mind, whether it's by implementing tips that you find useful or by talking to a professional, as I mentioned earlier. But ultimately, you have to make the choice. You have to do the work. It all starts with the baby steps. I highly urge you to take a moment to plan out your week, and maybe from the tips that I mentioned, choose the one that most resonated with you and try to see how it's going to fit into your week when you're going to execute on it. I really hope that this video was helpful. If it was helpful, make sure you like the video, and also please comment down below what you do to feel less lonely, as well as if any of the tips that I mentioned resonated with you, which one you're going to be implementing. I'm sending you a big hug, and please make sure to subscribe so we can grow this channel together. Go watch some of my other videos while you wait for me to post a new one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.